Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you get the spill every week. Also like and comment so we can discuss your thoughts and possibly see some of your suggestions in another video. Now, man, we've done some versus videos in the past, and I'll leave the link in the description if you haven't seen those yet or if you're new here. But this ain't like those, man. Like, Punisher gets owned in the worst way, and there's nothing I can really say to prepare you for it, so we're just gonna get into it. Alright, so in the story here, we start off with Norman Osborn, who's director of Hammer, and he's pinpointed the location of FrankenCastle. And he's been hunting Frank down because he made an attempt on an assassination on Osborn that was too close for comfort. And the Sentry actually caught the bullet right in front of Osborn's face. And initially he went after FrankenCastle and roughed him up quite a bit, but he still got away. So at this point, Osborn's using all of his resources to get FrankenCastle because he knows that the only reason that he's alive is because he got lucky. Like, if Sentry wasn't there, he would have straight had a hole in his forehead. So he's dropping all kind of bombs, leveling buildings, and he's waiting on confirmation for the kill, and they're like, we missed. And he's upset for good reason, because that was clearly more than enough explosives to blow up a van. But right after that, he sends all the ground troops and the whole cavalry, and he sends Daken to go on the ground as well too. And Daken just has this gangster grin on his face like, yeah, I'm about to go ham. And so we skip down to Frank, who used pen particles to shrink himself to avoid impact from the explosion and to not be seen temporarily. And as he takes off on his planned route of getaway, he hears a voice behind him say, whoa. And he does typically what you would do when you're at the mall and somebody call your name from behind you. You just turn around and hit him in the face with a dumpster lid. Not because you want to be a jerk, but you really just don't have the time to sort things out at the moment. But shortly after that, Frank has a few glider troops on him, and he's under fire. So he sets little traps to just disable him, not kill him, because these dudes are cops after all. But it gets to a point where there's too many of them for him to lose topside, so he has to get down in the sewer to really get rid of them. But on the way down, he gets shot in the back of the leg and also lands on that leg going down in the sewer, essentially breaking his leg. But when he tries to stand on it, he notices that it can take some weight, so he got to keep moving. But believe you me, this couldn't happen at a worse time, because as soon as he peeks around the corner, it's Daken. And at this point here, Daken's just here to do the job. Take him out, make it quick, that's it. But you know Frank gotta agitate him just a little bit, talking about claws, saying that they're not as effective as an actual gun. Mentioning that they have range, that they're a lot faster, which are valid points. But Daken's like, it don't matter how fast the gun is if the person behind it using it is slow. And he stabs Frank like right in the stomach, dude. So then Frank gets desperate and he just bites him on the lip. And Daken's caught off guard. He looking at him like, you just bit me on my lip? And he uses that space created to shoot him in the stomach and then spits the piece of his lip that he bit off of him on top of him. And right after that has the audacity to say that Osborn should have sent the real deal, meaning the real Wolverine. Hey, the disrespect is real. And so Daken gets up from here. He's like, all right, okay, that's what we doing? Okay. I'll show you what a real Wolverine do to that thing real quick. So Daken gets up to follow Frank to the surface. But if you look closely on his left arm, Frank planted something that's beeping on his arm. So as Daken starts to climb the ladder, that metronome of a beep starts to turn to a solid tone, which detonates the explosion. And at this point, Frank has made his way to the next rooftop. And I'm pretty sure Punisher probably would have jumped down a chimney or something and made a way out of this. But this ain't that kind of story. Because right behind him is Daken, black as ever, looking like Daffy Duck with his beak shot off, and he's ready to end this. And Daken tells everybody else to stand down. He's going to end this himself. And Frank turns around like, you won't keep talking or we're going to do this. And this is where it gets epic. Daken immediately disables the gun and like kicks him in a one movement kind of cartwheel thing. And Frank grabs his wrist like in mid-formation, but he loses his grip as soon as Daken's foot hits him in the temple. Then Frank shoots him in the eye, then sticks his thumb in the bullet hole. Like he's pulling any and everything he got into this man. And Daken is just taking it like a G. And they're also cutting each other back and forth, but when Daken hits that jugular, it is the beginning of the end. Like Frank starts to go down and he's like swinging at air. He's not even looking. He's just swinging wherever he can desperately. And from here, Daken just begins to disassemble this dude, literally cutting Frank into little Franklets. And as he's laying there bleeding out, he's like, I'm not done with you. Recognizing that his last expression isn't one of fear, but more so relief, because now it's over. And you know, every time I read this, I think of Hugh Jackman in like the near 20 years that he's given us a wonderful performance as Wolverine. And we only got one rated R movie though, like it just breaks my heart. But back to the story, as Daken plays Fruit Ninja with his dude corpse. Harry's watching from the helicarrier as he gets confirmation that it's done. FrankenCastle, aka the Punisher, is deceased. Or at least for now, because this story segues into FrankenCastle, And FrankenCastle continued on the Dark Reign storyline, and pretty much this is where Morbius, the living vampire, picked up the pieces of Frank that he could find and reassembled him back together. And I'm not going to elaborate too much on that. I'll probably say that for like October or something. But the main reason that I mention it is because years later, FrankenCastle and Daken are going to cross paths again. And so we skip over here sometime further on down the line, like an issue of Dark Wolverine. And Daken's on a date with like these 3 girls, and they wilding out. They spilling wine all over the place and all that. And he just stiffs them with a check. And it's not like he's broke. He just doesn't care. And he leaves from there to handle some business with some dude in the bathroom. First taking out his bodyguard so he can tell him to set up a meeting with the Silver Samurai. And it's funny because dude doesn't even come out from the stall. He's just behind the door like, yes, okay, I got it. I'll do it. And that's probably because he's terrified from hearing his bodyguard get the business. But right here we get a small glimpse into Daken's character when he tells the towel boy to clean up the mess, and he hands him like this huge tip. And I'm talking about racks. And it goes to show like, yeah, he did stiff those loose girls with the check for the food, but back there in the restroom, he tossed the towel boy what was probably his year's salary of what he would make working bathrooms in a hotel. And I already know what y'all gonna say in the comments, like, nice? What do you mean nice? Like, this dude just chopped up the Punisher like he was the main dish at a hibachi grill. But I mean to show that comparison just to say there's more than one side to Daken. He's complicated. But as we see him get on the elevator here, there's a shadowed figure standing on the top. And it's FrankenCastle. And it's been a while since these two seen each other, but you know Frank ain't gonna let it go without revenge. He's a freaking Punisher for crying out loud. So he cuts the cable on the elevator, sending the whole thing plunging what looks like to be a couple dozen floors, and FrankenCastle doesn't even flinch when it hits the ground, like it's nothing. Which is also a testament to how durable he is now. And he's radioing Henry, who's like his whistler, saying that he's not there, but right then and there is when Daken pops up behind him. And he gets that element of surprise on him for that first strike. And immediately he starts to taunt Frank like Frank was taunting him back in the day, saying, oh, you look different, you had some work done? And Daken's like, I knew I smelled your old musty behind when I got in that elevator. And right here Frank's like, I know what you're doing, you're trying to piss me off. And it's working. And FrankenCastle's getting the heavy blows in there, but Daken starts to notice something glowing in his chest, which makes him curious to what it is, because it seems to be the source of his power and what's giving him all of this crazy strength. And Castle's having a field day. He's like, scream louder. Crack, breaks his bones. Daken just screams way louder. He's like, yeah, like that. And you can see the bones from Daken's arms like sticking out of his body, which goes to show you that Daken is taking a serious pounding like through the floors of this building. And FrankenCastle's gonna pull a knife here, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna do you just like you did me. I'm gonna make it slow, and I'm gonna say the good parts for last. But this whole time, Henry is calling Frank on the comms. He's trying to tell him that your vitals are going crazy. But that doesn't stop him. The thing that stops him is this kid and his mother that are terrified for their lives, and it makes him stop for a second. He's like, wait, no, don't cry. And just seeing this happen is just bringing the humanity back to him. But Daken's like, bump that. This is my chance to catch him off guard. And nope, because he catches that sucker punch with the quickness. And at this point, Daken's like, bump this, man. I need to get all my bones pushed back in my body, regroup, and come back at this in a different way. And meanwhile, Henry's losing it because Frank's not responding. He's like, come on, man, say something, man, growl, whatever you do. Because he just wants to know that he's okay. But to Henry's relief, he finally responds and takes a moment to collect himself before he gets everything together and pursues Daken again. But that'll do it for this one, guys. I'll do another video later about when he finally catches up with him and what happens there, because at that point we have another visitor who joins the fight. But leave your comments below. Let me know what you guys think about the history between these two. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe so we can do it again next time. Alright, later.